do you feel like people are talking about God and spiritual matters more than they did 10 years ago? I mean, clearly they are. Where's that going?
I saw you with a guest a few weeks ago talk about, this is well known. I talked to everybody that's done it. I haven't done it. Almost everyone that takes DMT, either from the toad or the ayahuasca plant.
By the way, DMT it's a drug that causes hallucination.
These creatures show up that look like court gestures or space aliens, different things, and say, there are too many humans. You need to wipe out the population. Then you'll become gods. It's the same message. And they've had groups of people. They've done studies.
You need to wipe out, you need to kill people so you can become God?
Yes, you need to depopulate and you need to transcend.
Do you know people who've heard that message?
Oh, absolutely. They've had whole groups and studies that have had group hallucinations of this.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not the most spiritually sensitive person. I'm hardly a theologian. But if some demon is telling you to kill people so you can become God, like, we can say that's bad, right?
Absolutely. And the people that then, you're talking about tech heads who, microdose and are big in hallucinations and big into hallucinogenics.
If you don't know maybe some people are hearing this for the first time and they don't know what they're talking about. Basically, for spiritual experiences, many people have resorted to taking these drugs, and these drugs, when you take them, they cause hallucinations. Now, after a while, you're back and you're fine. It's not like cocaine or steroid, well, not steroids, but cocaine or crack cocaine or something like that, heroin, where you become addicted to it. But it's a drug that you take and you hallucinate, and in this hallucination, beings appear to you and begin to talk to you. And he's saying that when they meet, there's so many reportings of when the people take this drug, beings interact with them and begin to tell them that they need to depopulate the earth. So that is the direction he's going with that.
When they get more advanced and deep into it, and then most of them have talked about this, then the things start giving them more ideas and explaining the system they're going to build, the AI, the takeover, and this new species, and how, again, you're going to transcend death. And so we've all got to have a larger question there. So they say the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world he didn't exist. I think that's his second biggest trick. I think convincing the world that good doesn't exist is the devil's biggest trick.
Yes. Can you flat? I think that I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, but I know that you're telling the truth right now. Can you?
Well, convincing us that there isn't anybody good and that you don't have power and that it's all over and we are the Borg, you will be assimilated. The biggest trick is hopelessness when we're promoting truth and justice and honor, and we can't just dial into demons and fallen angels. We can also dial into God and get that message. But you first have to recognize that good and evil exist.
Yes.
And once you recognize that we are ethereal beings, that we are just manifesting ourselves in the third dimension, that all these people that are even atheists have these near-death experiences that come back with the same message. I mean, I personally in my life, have had so many times where I'm literally told something and it comes true and it just comes from God. And so I know this is real. We are a lot more complex than just what our eyes and ears and taste and touch pick up. And when you really actually study the globalists, none of them are atheists. They're into the occult.
Exactly.
And they believe they're interfacing, even at Skull and Bones. At Yale, they get in these coffins for days. They try to get these spirits to come into them. They try to channel these spirits. You've got the heads of Skull and Bones there in the last few days seeing who's able to interface with this. These are real rituals that are part of activating parts of the mind so that people can see past the veil. And again, they've now been able with robots and computers and wires in the brain, as Elon's talked about decades ago, this was already done. Your eyes narrow the light spectrum because there's so much going on that if you saw the infrared and everything else, would be too confusing. But now with hallucinogens and other things, they have been able to prove that people can actually see past the veil into basically other dimensions. And so that's really what this is. And we have to admit to.
Okay, that is crazy. So, yeah, the light spectrum with our eyes, I think, is it 1 or 3%? How much of the light spectrum in humans. It's not even 1%. It's 0.0035%. So imagine this is 100% of everything that's happening around us. Pew! Less than 1% of it our eyes can actually perceive. So then what's going on with the 99.9% that our eyes cannot see? What's going on? That's when things get really interesting.
Ourselves that what we see and taste and touch and everything is a very small piece of actually what's going on. And that's that wider world. And people have to, once they understand that there is this wider battle going on, then you realize, oh my God, God's real. I better choose God or I better choose the devil. But if people are kind of embedded into this and just grow up in it, and just with the corporate media and life, they get trained into the evil side, never knowing they really had a choice.
And this is why I'm so confused. So where is Elon in this? So the richest man in the world comes, he buys Twitter, which, like, very much so, pretty much saves free speech. Because when everybody is banning everyone that's speaking what they don't like, well then you can just ban everyone. But if one central media allows you to say what you think, all the other websites, if they don't do it, well, there's a problem. What's the problem? They lose their hedge. People will leave YouTube, they will leave Facebook, they will leave everywhere and go to Twitter. Why? Because you can say what you actually believe. And that was how it was. What was it, 2022? It's been a couple of years now. So he actually saved free speech. He helped Trump get elected. My question now is, who is this Elon? Who is he? Good or bad? Like, I actually want to know, what do you guys think? Inherently, do you think Elon inherently is a good or bad force in this world? Because when you've reached that realm of success, that realm of fame, that realm of notoriety, I don't believe there's no way you're not operating with spirits. So which spirit are you operating with? So, and the reason this is important is when we talk about all these guys doing these things, well, Elon is involved. Well, how is he involved? He's the one creating AI. I mean, OpenAI, I believe it was created by Elon. Now he's left the company, but he's doing Neuralink, where he's putting a chip in your body that will allow people to be able to walk again, allow you to be able to speak telepathically to your computer, maybe to people. So he's in this strange thing, trying to go to Mars. Strange things that they're trying to do. I don't know.
But almost everybody, if they're given a choice early enough, will choose God that right way. The problem is the system on earth knows that. So the priest class in Christianity or Islam or Judaism, any of it, most of it's bad priests, bad churches who know the power's there, know people are looking for God, know they're seeking. So they're there basically to get the power from you instead of you basically transcending spiritually. And so that's why Christ talked about the relationship with God is personal.
Yes.
And the kingdom of God is within us. The New Agers go, oh, you are God. No, kingdom of God is within us. We're made in God's image. We have the potential to know God, to interface with God. That's worship God. And then through that, begin to transcend to a higher consciousness, interfacing with God, not God, but with God, and then part of God.
So the gift is to see good. Like in that, I do think that's the trick. Because I mean, no one needs a tutorial on evil. It's all around us. It's super obvious. It no longer disguises itself. Abortion for the sake of abortion, like what is that? It's human sacrifice. It's just Canaanite
The
and
DNC doing abortions inside the
completely for the sake of abortion, not to improve the life of the girl or she's a 14-year-old rape victim. It's just like, no, abortion is inherently good because it's killing a person. That is all out in the open now. Nobody is confused about its existence. What you don't get a lot of is the recognition that good is a more than equal. It's a larger and opposing force. God is bigger than Satan, and you don't get that sense. Like nobody talks about that. You don't see it. How do you find that?
So many people purposely get turned off of the system by going to a church, whether it's Catholic, Protestant, any of it. And I'm a very empathic person. So growing up, I would feel at churches and you get invited here or there, really creeped out, not by the parishioners, but by the people in the system that are trained. Because
if that is for sure. Gosh,
where I feel the strongest demonic energy is in a lot of these big churches and a lot of these big things, because that's where the devil's sending his forces, and it's energetic. And so, but Christ criticized the Pharisees, Sadducees constantly. He said, you go pray up on the hill in front of everybody. You talk about how perfect you are all day, but really you're of your father, the devil, in the synagogue of Satan. Or you call it a black Sabbath or whatever. And it happens in Christian churches, happens in Judaism, it happens everywhere. And if you look at later Judaism, it's not just the Old Testament, the Torah, there's over 30 other books that they say, the rabbinical teachings are just as important. And it runs the gamut from some sects that you can call very pious and close to God to others that are outright Satanism. And you see that in the Christian denominations, all the things that call themselves Christian, that really aren't. Christ said, beware things, call themselves of God but are not, or the synagogue of Satan. Well, there weren't Christian churches then, the churches were synagogues, but it goes for synagogues, churches, anything that you got to be really close to God and the Holy Spirit lest you be deceived. And so that's really where it all is. And it comes down to your spiritual inclination. But I just recommend people.
I wish Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson joined RCN to get trained, man. God, bring Christians into the space of news and media, Lord. Bring them. Because this guy named Alex Jones, for 30 years, he's been doing this, calling out the agenda, the plan, the demonic plan that the world leaders have been trying to implement. For 30 years, he's been talking about this plan. And I know this guy is... The problem is, I just wish he was able to operate in a way that, how do I say it? In a more charismatic way. Imagine Alex Jones with a prophetic gift with him that can help him. Imagine Alex Jones with a healing gift. Imagine Alex Jones with something from God, that not just intellect, but something from God that he can bring to the generation so that he can bring them closer to God. Because most of the people watching Alex Jones, I would say it's changing now, but back then they weren't really Christians. They were just people noticing that things are weird. I wish, Lord, bring more Christians into this space, Lord.
Personal relationship with God, praying to God, saying, I want to be good. I want to recognize truth. I want to know what truth is. I want to open myself up to you. I'm an imperfect. I repent for what I've done, and I want you to cleanse me and then show me the truth, and then show me how to be a better person, and then show me after that what the mission is you have for me. And literally, if you do that through a process, it may take days, may take months, may take years, then the adventure begins. And then all of a sudden you're being given like intel and stuff, like literally just, you have to learn to go with it. It's never wrong. And it's God, and it's there, and it's your personal relationship. And then obviously people get this relationship. They all want to teach other people it. And God says, get together in groups. That's great. But Christ didn't try to go get the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the priest class to join him. He said their minds were closed. He went to the prostitutes and the tax collectors and the robbers and the thieves because they were already outcast. But that's where he found people that were already under evil's control, but weren't arrogant about it, who were looking for a way out. And so I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, is a spiritual relationship with God. And there are some real churches and things.
But don't you find that? I know I have found that you see sparks of this in the most unlikely people. If you put a list on paper of the people in your life, I won't ask you to say it out loud, but who you really trust, or you talk to and you groove with them and they like know exactly what you're saying. You know, they are on the same wavelength in some deep way. It's not the people you would expect.
Here's something you may not have known. Back in 2015, the Congress of the United States repealed something called the Country of Origin Labeling.
Preacher, because
It's worth it.
most people get into media because they want to be movie stars. Most people become a preacher because they want to, because they want to be famous and have power. And then you'll find like just the most normal, unassuming person that has all this great knowledge.
Yes.
Because they already have all the power, they don't need power. And so it's just
they're connected to God's power. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's quite the quest, because so many people are lost, and really it's an inside job. They've got to somehow open up the channel to God, and then they'll see everything that's happening. And then God will give them a message and a mission of what they should do. And I don't want to say all churches are bad, because there's a lot of good people in the churches regardless. It's just that the last 120 years, the Rockefeller Foundation, the ecumenical movement, and all of that has really moved into the churches. We see that with all the rainbow flags and all, the famous cathedrals in England now festooned with all the leftists, graffiti and garbage. I mean, it's been captured, is my point. But people can't get turned off by that and say, well, God's dead. No. Satan has occupied the so-called temples, but God isn't in the temple. God is inside us.
Do the temples get torn down? Like, do the last vestiges of the old civilization get erased and Christians start anew? Like, what is this? How does this unfold?
I think that's up to how God influences everybody. I think we could, over time, retake those things. But the Satanists and the leftists, the power hungry, they think if they can take over the skin of something and occupy it,
yes,
that they can fool people that are looking for God. But that's actually triggering the Great Awakening. So I think some of the buildings get torn down, some of the buildings get retaken. But at the end of the day, God's temple is with us.
It doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter.
Right. So Westminster Abbey is not where God lives. No, that's so important to remember. Do you get discouraged? Do you ever think it's hopeless?
No, because it's all in God's plan, but I do get discouraged for individuals who kind of fall to evil. You see good people that fight evil for a while, but they get put under pressure, they get attacked, they turn to the dark side.
Boy, have I seen that.
Because it gets them ahead for a little while, and then you later see them destroyed.
Yeah, always. And their families destroyed too.
Yeah, so, and I get tempted by evil. Sometimes like a devil jumps into me. And I mean, by that, I'm just busy, I'm tired, I'm whatever, and I catch myself, and I'm like, whoa. For a minute, I was like, turning into everything I'm trying to fight. So I'm not up here on some high horse, like I've got all the answers and I'm perfect. Because anybody empathic can, tune into different frequencies and things that are happening. But at the end of the day, your heart's what matters. King David did a lot of bad things and sent his best buddy off to get killed because he was lusting after his wife, but he really repented. And God said, you're a man after my own heart. So at the end of the day, it's where you point your soul. And so many Christians and some people that love God have guilt. The devil's the accuser. And so, I made a mistake. I wasn't perfect. I'm not really a Christian. I'm not really good. No, as long as you mean well and are doing the best you can, you're going to stumble. You're going to have problems and you're going to have issues, but it doesn't matter because that's why God's there to help you. And you just got to reach out to God and say, I can't do this alone. I need you. And I think people just need to say, I need God. I give it to God. Not, I'm going to lay down and just trust in God. So many churches, thank God they're coming out with microchips and Mark of the Beast. That means Jesus is coming back soon. Well, I was talking to a police officer today we saw out here, and he's like, well, just thank God Jesus is coming back soon. Well, if you actually read Revelation, it doesn't actually read like that. We have to go through this whole project, and then this happens. And so...
And it's also like explicit throughout the New Testament. You're not going to know. Like, you're not God. You don't get to predict when this happens. It comes like a thief in the night. And so
well, exactly. And I'm not putting him down for being like, praise God.
No,
Jesus is coming back soon. My point is that it says the Antichrist will wage war against the saints and overcome them.
Right.
So there's a big, and then we lose in the third quarter, we win in the fourth quarter because God's going to test us.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, oh, thank God we won't be here. That's only been around Schofield Bible in like 150 years. Nobody ever taught that, not in Catholicism, Protestantism.
It's absurd.
Nobody ever taught. I mean, the Antichrist has got guillotines cutting Christians' heads off.
Right.
So how are they all raptured if they're getting their heads cut off?
So what he's talking about here is the rapture and the idea that the concept of the rapture, like the idea that before all the bad things in Revelation happens, we're going to all get raptured up. He's saying that it is a new concept, only 100.5 year new idea, and that it's not 1,000-year-old idea. That's what he's trying to say here.
So see, and so
what do you guys think?
Well, the whole thing, I mean, it's obviously a heresy, but more than that, it's such a clear usurpation of God's power. It's like, I've figured out exactly when this is going to happen and how it's going to go. It's like, no,
well, what happened to all the disciples? Almost all of them got killed.
Yeah, why not?
Did they get raptured out?
No, I know. The whole thing is, it's sad. And by the way, really good people fall for it. Really good. Some of my favorite and most decent people fall for it. I'm not attacking anyone at all, but it's clearly not true. And it leads them it leads them to defend like murder and stuff.
While we're on theology, what do you think of Peter Thiel's whole Antichrist lecture?
In some sense, the Antichrist as an idea is something that really comes into being in the world after Christ. And so there's, and then there's a lot of things about it that are mysterious. In some ways, the Antichrist copies Christ. The Antichrist pretends to be greater than Christ.
Mm-hmm. If you don't know Peter Thiel, think of it like billionaire. I believe he's friends with Elon Musk. He works with the U.S. government, I think CIA, to build this company. So he's a guy, big guy, okay? Very rich, knows a lot of people, knows a lot of things. He's also gay. So this is Peter Thiel, okay? Why is a billionaire talking about the Antichrist? And I was even trying to think, like, is this guy a Christian? So he's gay. Is he Christian? Is he like, oh, I'm a gay Christian? Like, what is this thing where a billionaire is talking about the Antichrist? What is going on? It's just strange.
Hyper-Christian, ultra-Christian, and then maybe only ultimately, deeply, deeply anti-Christian. You can think of it as a system, where maybe communism is a one-world system. So it's an ideology or a system. And then of course, you can also think of it as Newman did, where it's sort of the final dictator of the one world state, where it's still, you stress it more as a person. You can think of it as a type, a system, a person. How does a sort of world takeover actually happen?
Oh, wait, I did not know he went that deep with it. Why is he talking about the Antichrist like that?
I haven't seen it. I have talked to him about it at great length. I think it's really interesting. I didn't really get to the punchline on that. So the question everyone, has is, okay, who's the Antichrist? I think maybe there's more than one. I don't know.
It's a system.
Right. So I would just say I'm not taking a pass on the question. I would, but I don't. This is so far out of my depth. I mean, I'm just sort of at the I'm for Jesus stage of things. But I'm glad that there's a conversation about it. I welcome all conversations about the transcendent because I think it's what matters.
Well, exactly, because I love the a comedian, Tim Dillon. He's like, this guy's got all this cashless control grid, or this, and then he wants to know about the Antichrist. Well, he grew up really Christian. People don't know, Peter Thiel, and then now he's wanting to have a debate about it. I don't think the Antichrist wants you to have a debate about the Antichrist.
I think that's probably right. And just in general, it's worth talking about and reminding ourselves and others that this is just like a small piece of what's real. we're just seeing a tiny fraction of reality. Like the spiritual world, that realm is as real as, the table we're sitting at, and people lose sight of that. I lose sight of that.
Exactly. So we should be having not just Peter Thiel, everybody, Donald Trump, you and I, we should be discussing Revelation, what's described is really happening now.
Yeah.
So we should be having, oh God, Peter Thiel's the Antichrist. He's talking about the Antichrist. What? Because some people are like, well, what's he doing talking about the Antichrist? Well, I think we should all be talking about it.
Well, because I think the temptation is to just ignore the whole topic. I mean, that's the world that I grew up in, where it was just never discussed.
Devil doesn't exist. It was just one.
The revelation in the church that I used to go to. No, it was never. Bro, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna say? It was never discussed.
100%. People's sex lives were a frequent topic of conversation. Everyone was super liberal about that. Like, no one was embarrassed of anything except any question that transcended the material was just considered, like death was considered totally off limits, because it pointed to these obvious questions like what happens then. And so I really welcome that. I think all healthy societies face death.
Exactly.
directly.
People go, oh, you're a Peter Thiel dick writer. No, you should be having a discussion about Antichrist. Why aren't you? And so what I haven't seen the presentation.
So people, I'm sorry, I miss a lot because I do think the internet's demonic. Sorry, I know I work on the internet, but the whole thing makes me uncomfortable. So I haven't seen any of this, but people are attacking Thiel for this.
Oh, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, it's like they haven't even found out what he's saying. I've read some of the articles. I tried to get tickets, but it was already sold out. But I wanted to see his view on it. But all I know is that we should be having a discussion about the Antichrist. I mean, we're having one already here. And so what is the Antichrist? I think you need to know the enemy. I think you need to know.
Well, one obvious hallmark from my, frequent but very untutored reading of those books in the New Testament is that the Antichrist reserves the powers of God for himself. He pretends to be God. I'm all powerful. I can, worship me. And by the way, that's most leaders in the world through all time. But those are signs of evil.
Wow. Guys, this is the end here. Very, very interesting. What is a billionaire doing talking about the It's the first time I've ever even heard of a billionaire talking about the Antichrist. I think that's why it's strange. Billionaire goes into topics like that. So that's why it's strange. But guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.